So one of the core concepts of EOS is this idea of LMA, which is leadership, management, and accountability. And ultimately, this is a role of anybody who has direct reports. It's about leading, managing, and holding them accountable. And one of the cool things here is that this is really just a formula, right? So leadership plus management equals accountability. If we can become great leaders and we become great managers, accountability falls right into place. So I want to talk really more about one of these elements here, which is kind of the communication, and more specifically, proactive communication with each one of your direct reports. But I want to kind of touch on the difference between leadership and management at a high level first. So leadership is really about working on the business. It's about providing clear direction at a high level, making sure that everybody's clear on what their roles are and what they're ultimately expected and going to be held accountable to. It's about building trust with your team, having a high level of trust that creates that great leadership. And it's really about thinking about the business, thinking on the business, more of the planning and the direction and the vision. When we move to management, it's much more about working in the business. It's about setting expectations day to day. So if clear direction at a high level is what leadership is about, the day-to-day expectations is really what great management is about. It's about having great communication, not just thinking that we know what each of our direct reports is thinking and saying and having an open door policy, but actually working to get those open lines of communication and proactively get that information out of your team. I'm going to touch on that in just a second. And it's really about the doing. It's about really the day-to-day of doing. And so I want to kind of focus for a second on just this communication, this idea of proactive communication. So often leaders and managers feel like they have this open door policy where anybody on my team can come to me at any time with a problem, and I'll do whatever I can to put them in a position to succeed, to solve their problem, to help them fix it, whatever it may be. But what we realize is that by the time somebody gets into our door, it's because so many things have piled up and they're at a boiling point. And oftentimes it just becomes this rushing river of things that are wrong with us and the other team and our business. And it becomes really difficult to solve. And so I want to really encourage you to have communications and conversations with each one of your direct reports every single quarter and ask a series of key questions that is going to open up that proactive communication, help you get really valuable feedback, and ultimately build a much higher level of trust with your team because they actually know that you're trying to do what you can to make this the best place for them, to truly lead them and to put them in a position to succeed. So here are the key questions. Number one, it needs to be clear that they are following and demonstrating your core values. And so one of the first things that I always do, first of all, this would be a casual conversation. I like to either take each one of my direct reports either out to coffee, sometimes if working downtown, we just go outside and we just go for a walk around kind of downtown. You can do whatever you want, but make this a casual conversation. This is not a one-way review of you to your employees. This is ultimately you trying to do 20% of the talking and your direct reports doing 80% of the talking, providing that feedback because this is proactive communication. And so I always like to start with kind of the core values, and the best way, rather than me kind of sharing like, hey, culturally, this is what you're doing right and this is what you're doing wrong, I like to survey them first and kind of say, hey, these are our 5 core values, or these are our 3 core values: improve, impress, and enjoy. How do you feel like you're doing in each one of these key core values? And what I find is that they start to open up. I did kind of good here, but I also feel like and they start to assess themselves. It becomes a lot more powerful than me just sharing how I feel like they're doing. Ultimately, at the end of that, I tend to have some points of where I feel like they did good in each one of the core values, where they're demonstrating them, or if they're really deficient in any of them, I also make sure to bring that up, give them an opportunity to work to improve that. The next thing that I do is talk about really the 2 most important questions that I'm always trying to get to are, what do you feel like is working right now in the business for you? With our relationship, with our team, what's working for you right now? Once we talk about the good things, I then move on to the second question, which is, what do you feel like is not working right now? And this is where all of these issues and challenges and things that normally we expect them just to come into our office and share with us, but unless we really give them the platform and ask them proactively, we're rarely going to hear these problems and issues, and they kind of just sit there and fester and create these long-term bigger issues and challenges within our business. And so I am going to encourage every single one of you who has direct reports to go out and schedule or figure out a way to have this conversation, this casual conversation with every one of your direct reports sometime over the next 3 months, and ask those 3 things. How do you feel like you're doing in each one of our core values? Where do you feel like you're demonstrating them or falling a little bit short? What's working for you right now? And thirdly, what's not working for you right now? Wait to see the feedback that you get. It's something that you will schedule in and do every single quarter with every one of your direct reports. And while you're collecting that valuable information, those issues that are below the surface that you may not readily see, that you can catch before they become urgent issues, that you can start to put solutions in place, you're going to collect that, but you're also going to be building a much higher level of trust with your team. When you take the time to actually get their feedback and figure out what they're thinking and what they're seeing. Hopefully that's a really cool lesson for you guys to become better leaders, better managers. Ultimately, you'll be better at accountability with your team, but building higher levels of trust and increasing that communication through proactive communication is an extremely valuable tool for you and your business.